Let's talk about Sandals St. Vincent.
We are here at the newest Sandals resort, Sandals St. Vincent and the Grenadines, bringing you a full and honest review. This is our last full day at the resort, sadly, so we've been here a week, have noticed a lot of good things and some not so good things about the resort, so we wanted to kind of summarize it all and talk about the newest resort in the Sandals portfolio.
To give you a little bit of context, this is the 17th resort in the Sandals portfolio. It's also our 8th Sandals visit, so we're excited to tell you about our experience.
So we're going to start off with the pros and what we liked about the resort, and then after we'll get into the cons and what we didn't like so much about the resort. But starting with the pros, the first thing on our list is the location and just how unique it is. Sandals St. Vincent is the first Sandals resort on the island of St. Vincent, and it's nestled in between this valley on the leeward side of the island. So really unique compared to other Sandals properties where you have all of these mountains surrounding the resort, very scenic, very picturesque. So it's just a really unique backdrop for the location. The next pro is that St. Vincent and the Grenadines is not very touristy. For context, they didn't have an international airport until 2017. So because of that, there aren't a lot of direct flights currently coming to the island. It really creates a unique vibe for this resort as compared to other islands such as, the Bahamas and Jamaica, where they're very accessible to the United States and other countries. So tourism is very much a thing there, as opposed to here at St. Vincent, tourism is very much an up and coming part of the country. And because of that, you really feel a sense of exclusivity and uniqueness here on the island and at the resort specifically as compared to some other Sandals. And another pro going off of that is that Sandals St. Vincent is doing a lot of great things for the overall economy of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It's the only all-inclusive resort currently on the island of St. Vincent. 700 team members are employed here, so it's doing great from that perspective. Obviously, all the jobs it created from a construction standpoint, this is not an easy island to bring supplies and just overall building materials to, so the fact that they built this beautiful property in a more, call it remote setting as compared to some of the other places in the Caribbean is really impressive. Very happy to see the overall tourism and economic impact that this resort is having for the nation of St. Vincent.
So the next pro of the resort are the rooms themselves. This property at St. Vincent originally was designed to be a Beaches, which is the sister company to Sandals and caters to families. When they then decided to switch it over to a Sandals, I think they must have been pretty far along in the design process because they kept the rooms as designed and they are huge. So on this trip, we're staying in the quote unquote, I hate to use this phrase, the worst room, aka it's just the cheapest room available at the resort. And it is the nicest room that we have stayed at any Sandals resort, even ones where we've stayed in higher room categories. So that right there goes to show, how much time and detail went into the actual design of these rooms. They're beautiful and they're ginormous. Our closet alone is bigger than like our New York City apartment that we stayed in.
Not exactly, but
it's pretty close.
Nice, yeah.
It's pretty close. And the rooms, you can tell, are obviously super modern. They have smart TVs. They have way more channels than any of the other Sandals we've been to. They have USB and USB-C outlets by the beds. And then, of course, special shout out to these balconies. They're definitely the largest balconies that we have seen at a Sandals. We have the couch, we have the Tranquility soaking tub. It's very spacious out there, which is lovely.
Yeah, you can see like how far back the room goes, so it's actually interesting if you look at like the overall layout of Sandals St. Vincent. This used to be the Buchanan Bay resort, and Sandals purchased it from them when it closed, and so a large portion of the resort, almost half of the property, is private buildings. So it makes sense why it was almost a Beaches, because those private bungalows, villas, whatever you want to call them, are perfect for families, but for whatever reason, Sandals and Beaches wanted to make this a Sandals over Beaches.
And we think it's because of the flights and how most likely you will need a connecting flight to come here, and children probably aren't up for that. So that's probably the thinking with switching it. But
it's challenging enough to travel with kids, especially if they're younger, on a direct flight. So add a couple connections in there, and then it's even more of a challenge.
For sure. The next pro about this resort, hands down, is the landscaping. The landscaping at this resort is absolutely pristine. The other day there was somebody who just spent hours in this one section just like picking dead leaves off the bush.
Well, we walked by and like a guy was like looking at a landscaper was looking at a tree, and I noticed he was like the leaves that were discolored, he was just picking them off.
Yeah, we've never seen a resort look like this immaculate, and it really, you can tell their team works very hard. We've seen people out every day working on it.
And at these new resorts, they put down sod as opposed to waiting to grow grass, and the sod has come in beautifully. And the resort has been open for like 9 months, so it's just a really pristine resort. The next pro is that compared to other Sandals resorts that we've been to, there's more pool and beach drink service here. Typically, there isn't a lot of servers at other Sandals resorts coming around to your pool chairs, taking away empty glasses, offering to bring you a new drink. That's mainly because Sandals is very big on the butler suites, and that's very much something that the butlers will do for their guests while they're here. So it's been great to see that be more of a thing here at Sandals St. Vincent. It's just nice that when you're hanging out in the pool that doesn't have a swim-up bar, for example, there are people going around offering to bring you a drink, and they are even doing that at the main pool that does have the swim-up bar,
Right.
which is great. And we did notice too when we were doing some of the aqua activities the other day that there's actually a bar on the beach. We haven't seen any actual drink service on the beach, but our guess is that since there's the bar there, they are also doing it if you're hanging out.
We just haven't spent that much time at the beach. It
Right.
was like, we're mainly at the pools, and then we went to the beach to like go kayaking and stuff. But
Yeah.
other than that, I haven't spent a lot of time. But assume the bar's right there that they're also getting good wait service as well. But it's been nice to see. We have seen wait service somewhat at Sandals, but a lot of that was pre-COVID, and it seemed like that was one thing that was kind of pulled back a bit post-COVID. So it was nice that we basically felt super pampered at this resort, that somebody was basically always coming by to see if we needed a cocktail.
Kind of going off of that, it brings us to our next pro, which is this resort is a testament of Sandals really trying new things. This is the third iteration of what has been kind of unofficially coined as Sandals 2.0. It's this new look and feel of resorts that really started when Sandals Royal Curacao opened in 2022, then followed by Sandals Dunn's River in 2023, and now Sandals St. Vincent here in 2024. So it's a very bright, modern look and feel, everything from the rooms to the lobbies to the restaurants. We just talked about all the technology that's here in the resort. And speaking of the restaurants, I think that's the biggest example of Sandals trying new things here at Sandals St. Vincent. For example, they have Amora, which is their first salad, or I don't want to say health-focused restaurant, but you go there for lunch and you could order salads. So they have a number of different options. You could also make your own. They also have a restaurant called Bucan, which is a family-style restaurant, and they basically make a Caribbean style dinner for you.
And not just Caribbean culture, but the St. Vincent.
Right.
Specifically, St. Vincent culture. For example, they featured breadfruit, which is the country's national fruit. They had what's called like the river feast. So it was very not just a Caribbean inspired meal, but country specific, which was unique.
We'll be putting out a full dining overview that goes through all of the restaurants in detail, so we won't go into each example, but just know that there are a lot of new concepts here that I think if you're looking for something new and fresh with the Sandals brand, you could really find it here.
The next pro are some of the over-the-water offerings, meaning this resort is one of the few at Sandals that has a over-the-water wedding chapel, perfect spot for a destination wedding, and there also are several over-the-water bungalows as well, which is basically the top tier of room categories at any Sandals resort. And a unique thing about the over-the-water bungalows here at St. Vincent is that they are two-storied ones. So they didn't just build the bungalows, they kind of amplified them a bit. But that is the perfect spot to get married and have your honeymoon, or just coming for a special occasion. But those rooms are pretty spectacular, and it's much easier to fly here than it is to go, all the way to the Maldives or something for that over the water experience. The next pro is that the cabanas at the resort are complimentary and first come, first serve. Some of them are snagged up by butlers, but we've been able to get them every day that we've tried for one at least. So I think I went out and reserved one this morning. So that's the third time we've had one, and it is a very nice spot and is something that at other Sandals resorts that we've been to has been an additional charge. So this is nice that at least currently, of course it can always change if they're becoming super popular and they decide to make it butler only, or they decide to have a charge if you want to reserve that for the day. But as of right now, it is just first come, first serve, and it is a pretty amazing spot by the pool. You have a ceiling fan there to cool things off a bit, and they have curtains on the side, so once, the sun is coming in, you can pull a curtain, and it's been great.
And they have electrical outlets too. So if you want to charge your phone or something during the day. They also have cabanas. There's the Crescent pool, which is right next to the main pool.
Yep.
They also have cabanas there too. So there's probably close to maybe 25 or 30 cabanas.
And there's some at the heart-shaped pool too.
Right. The next pro are the bikes. This is a fairly large resort. Somebody who we spoke to said that they own about 50 acres worth of land here on St. Vincent. Not all of it is developed, but it's a fairly long resort. If you wanted to walk from the beach back to the tennis courts, for example, it'll probably take you, 10 to 15 minutes. It's a decent size, so they have these bikes available all around the resort for you to just take at your leisure to either get from point A to point B or just to go for a little bit of a ride. We saw these first at Sandals Royal Curacao. They were a big hit there. They're very much more popular here. You see people riding them all the time. Again, you could see them in the different rooms outside the restaurant, so if it's available, you could take it and do what you need to do with it.
The next pro would be the spa at this resort. Now, every Sandals and Beaches has a Red Lane spa. I've been to many of them. I usually try to do a spa service whenever we go to a Sandals, and it's always wonderful. But this spa especially, I felt was a little bit more elevated. It definitely has a very modern feel itself, but really love the free amenities that you get just for being a guest at this resort. So of course you can go in and pay for a service. I did a hot stone massage, which was absolutely amazing, but any guest can go into the spa and use the sauna and the steam room, which is great. And then they also have kind of an open air pool, cold plunge, and hot tub. So that was a really nice thing. We went in one morning just to use those facilities, and we had the whole place to ourselves. It was really nice. So it's just a little way you can still go and pamper yourself without having to spend any additional money.
The next pro is the Sandals Select Dinner. So for context, if you are a returning guest to Sandals, you are invited to the Sandals Select Dinner, which happens about once a week at the resorts. It's an opportunity for the Sandals management to basically thank their returning most loyal guests. And here at St. Vincent, they do that on Tuesdays. And this was actually our first time doing one of the Sandals Select Dinners. Typically when we go to Sandals, we're only there for 4 or 5 nights, and we really want to prioritize going to dinner at the restaurants at the resort as opposed to a more invited affair. But this was great. We wanted to try it here since we've been here a week, and we were pleasantly surprised with just how well it was put on. It's also a little bit of an opportunity too for them to gauge how interested you are in going to other Sandals. Like they have members of the loyalty team there if you want to book your next stay. So it's very much a sales play, but that was not the goal at all.
And they basically use it as an opportunity to celebrate you. So they gave awards out when you hit a new tier. In the loyalties, there were people who were ambassador levels, which means 400 paid nights. Like, absolutely insane. But it's nice to be seated at a table with other guests who have gone to a lot of Sandals to, ask each other questions where they've been and what they liked, and it may help inspire where you want to go next.
So overall, the experience was really high quality, even for Sandals. We were asked to go to the main lobby. They picked us up in a golf cart to bring us what would have only been
2 minutes,
like a 5-minute walk to a dedicated convention space and meeting space here. So I think that's another, kind of goes back to what we we're talking about, the newness of Sandals. This is a space purpose built for those sorts of functions. So from an audiovisual standpoint, from a catering standpoint, all the kitchen facilities are there. So it was really seamless. They have all of their staff there to greet you with cocktails, making conversation with you. They did a little slideshow about the Sandals Foundation, which is great. Or they had like an MC introduce all of the managers at the resort. The GM got up and said a few words as well. So yeah, to Jenna's point, it was very much a celebration of the Sandals' most loyal guests, which we loved, as opposed to a full like sales presentation.
Yeah, it wasn't like that at all, which I kind of thought going into it might be, but was pleasantly surprised. It really was just like a night to have fun. They had one or two managers sit at every table, so you could ask them questions and get to know them, which was really fun. We had Anna at our table from Loyalty and Travel, and she was a lot of fun. We had a great time talking with her all night. We were so surprised at how much we loved it, and it was a 4-course meal, which was really delicious, and it was nice to see something else that they could make besides just what's offered at all the restaurants.
And we really commend a lot of the team members being here for this, because a lot of them live like an hour and a half, 2 hours away from the resort. For them to stay late on a weeknight, it just goes to show how committed they are to the guests. And on that note of being committed to the guests, we have to shout out the incredible staff and team of Sandals St. Vincent. We've never really had a bad Sandals experience when it comes to the service, but I think at all of the newest resorts that we've been to, you really see that exemplary level of service that Sandals can provide. And that was very much the case here at Sandals St. Vincent. Everything that you would expect from a Sandals level of service, we saw here. There was not one bad encounter. Everybody is really genuinely wanting to make sure you have the best experience possible. And we heard on multiple occasions, even at the loyalty dinner included, from the GM himself, he said that if something is not to your liking, please tell us, right? They are the newest resort in the portfolio, so they are still kind of getting their legs under them, so to speak. So it's really great to see that they want to learn and improve to provide the best vacation possible for you. And we've been to other resorts previously that haven't been that open to feedback. So it's really great to see the staff leaning into that so much. But we want to shout out everyone who really made our vacation so special. We'll put their names here on the screen. Thanks to each and every one of you for helping make our time here at Sandals St. Vincent so awesome.
If you are interested in coming to Sandals St. Vincent or going to any of the other Sandals resorts, I did want to mention that I am a travel agent who specializes in Sandals vacations. You may not know, but it is completely free to work with a travel agent. So if you're interested in getting more information about this resort or other resorts, if you want to receive a no obligation quote, I'd love to help you with that, and you can find my email address in the video description below.
And if this video has been valuable, please consider liking and subscribing. We already have an entire Sandals playlist here on YouTube. We've done resort tours of Sandals Grenada, Sandals Royal Curacao, Sandals Dunn's River. We also have some content on Sandals Barbados, Sandals Royal Barbados, Sandals Grand Antigua. Again, this is our 8th Sandals property, so if you want information, just general tips on Sandals, or a packing list for your Sandals vacation, go check out that playlist.
Now, before we get into some of the cons of this resort, there's one other thing that we want to mention that we wouldn't put in a pro or a con category, and that is the dogs at the resort. So if you've watched videos of Sandals before, if you've been to a Sandals resort, you've probably noticed that the resort has cats usually. And we're always a big fan of them. They pretty much stay to themselves, but you'll just be walking around and you'll see a cat at the resort. At Sandals St. Vincent, there are also dogs. They honestly have been very well behaved. They look clean and healthy.
Yep.
I know our driver on the way over to the resort was talking about how a lot of vets from the US will donate their time and fly here and vaccinate the dogs, so they're very well taken care of. But I will say they basically kept to themselves.
Yeah.
They weren't going up to people at restaurants and begging for food or trying to jump on people.
Yeah.
Never saw that. They would just, you would see one in a restaurant, they'd come walking by and they would just like lay down next to somebody's table.
Yeah.
It was more that kind of thing where they basically kept to themselves. They weren't ever begging, but they are around.
It was more endearing than annoying.
Yeah.
You know, and to the point of like dogs with food, like they are still dogs, so if you offer them food, they will probably take it,
Yeah.
but they're not actively going to you for food.
Yeah.
I mean, we love dogs. We have a dog. You've seen Bailey in some of our other videos. So it's just nice to see them on your vacation, especially when they are genuinely so well behaved.
So let's jump into some of the cons of Sandals St. Vincent. The first thing we want to mention is the drive from the airport to the resort. It is about 45 minutes, so that is kind of an average. You know, we've had resorts where we're 5 minutes or even next to the airport, and then I've had like the 2-hour drive to South Coast. So this is, you know, pretty much in the middle. It's not the time that's an issue, it is how windy these roads are. And if you get slightly car sick, you will probably be car sick going from the airport at this resort. I will say our driver was fantastic in that he kind of warned us about how crazy the drive is. He had medical grade puke bags on him and he was very open about, you let me know if I need to slow down, if you need to pull over, which I did have to have him pull over at one point. Take your Dramamine, mentally prepare yourself for this drive. I think it's not worth deterring you from coming here, but it's just something to prepare for. Now, if you are staying in a butler level room, you will have approximately a 15-minute drive, and then the rest of the way will be on a boat. So if that eases your anxiety a little bit, if you know you're better on boats than crazy windy roads, then that may be something to encourage you to get a butler room.
The next con is how they have the air conditioning set up here in the rooms. It does sound very nitpicky, but when you're here in the Caribbean, it's hot outside, so you want to be comfortable sometimes when you're indoors, especially at night while you're sleeping. Sandals, like many companies, have sustainability in mind. They have notes in the bathrooms about possibly reusing towels, and that goes into how they're using their electricity as well. So one of the things they've done with the thermostats here is set them to not go below a certain temperature. It's all in Celsius here, but it equates to about 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So for us, that's a little warm, especially at night when we're trying to sleep. And the other consideration is that they're motion activated too, which is great during the day when you might not be in the room for 8 hours. So it doesn't make sense for the AC to be on and waste electricity while you're not here. But at night, while you're sleeping, there's no way to keep that motion sensor activated.
I wish we had like a camera on us, because it'll be like, I'll wake up at like 3 a.m. to use the bathroom, and all of a sudden I'll be like, oh my god, it's hot, and I'll be like, just start like waving my arms, and then the AC kicks back.
We actually like did that like laying in bed one morning when we woke up, and it was so hot, and like we just like started like moving our arms and the legs, and like it kicked on. It like reminded us of that scene from The Office with Pam and Dwight
trying to activate the lights.
The lights, yeah. Just something to keep in mind. Again, we commend Sandals for being sustainable, but you need to balance that with a level of practicality. We did read on Facebook that if you call the front desk and ask them to lower it for you, they of course will do that. Like, they don't want their guests to be uncomfortable or hot. Again, it's the Caribbean, and you need to be safe too. They did send maintenance here. They just went into like the back end of the thermostat and changed it for us, and I believe it like is able to be lowered to like 67 or 68 now.
So the next couple of cons are all food related at the resort. The first thing that we will say is that at a couple of places, there were things that they were simply out of, which happens. Not having Diet Coke at a couple of places, running out of straws at Gatsu, which is the Asian restaurant, not having ramen, and then Parasol all week has not had the beef burger on their menu. Again, sounds so nitpicky, but especially since another con we would say is that the restaurants and menus overall definitely are not geared if you are a picky eater by any means. So when we went to Parasol, for example, one of the few things that we would eat was the beef burger. So we were disappointed that that was gone, and you mainly had a lot of other, what I would call like fancy food, which sometimes you don't always want that for like a lunch. I like that. I like fancy meals for dinner, but at lunch I just want, like a salad or a quesadilla or a burger or something along those lines. Running out of one of the only like quote unquote normal food items on a menu was a little bit of a bummer.
And again, we talked about Sandals trying new things, so it's great to see them be a little bit more adventurous in their cuisine. There very much could be data and insights to support the items that are on the menu, and it could also play into the fact that this is a little bit more of an exclusive destination. So if you don't want it to feel as like American touristy as like a Jamaica, for example, maybe that was the rationale behind it. But I think, for example, we're not like the most picky eaters, but we're not like overly adventurous. I think the overall sentiment is that when you're on vacation, for us at least, it's nice to just like kind of have some comfort food, and there just wasn't as much variety, especially for lunch, that we would have liked to see on some of those menus.
But even so, the breakfast options at the resort is you have the buffet, then you have Parasol Beach Club, and then if you're in a club or butler room, you also have room service.
Right.
So even at Parasol, for example, for breakfast, there was only one omelet, and it was like a mushroom goat cheese, which I love, and I got it, and it was delicious. But there wasn't even something like scrambled eggs on the list, or a build your own omelet where you could do it to your liking. It just was a little bit limited.
There is room for expansion here at Sandals St. Vincent. One of the team members who we spoke to said that that is very much their intention. So I think something that would really round out the dining offerings here at the resort would be adding something like a Neptune's or Neptune's adjacent that's at some of the other Sandals properties.
Or doing the food trucks.
Or
like
doing
at
the food
Curacao.
trucks. Yeah.
Just added more variety. Which I think other resorts have that this one necessarily didn't. That's definitely what I think is missing.
Yeah, and listen, if you're a foodie, you'll go to town here. Like, you're gonna have a great time. But I think just compared to other Sandals and what we really want to get out of our vacation food, left a little bit to be desired. Last point on like some of the availability, some of the items, they did have Hurricane Beryl come through in the last couple months, so we're not entirely sure if there's maybe just like still inventory issues for some items getting to the island. They are still a newer property, but I think, you know, being 9 months in, you're kind of at the edge of being new versus like having your stuff kind of down. Just something to keep in mind. Hopefully that's like a food dining issue that's mitigated going forward.
But we will say everything we ate was great.
Yes.
There was never anything that we ate that we were like, oh, that was bad. So what we did find on the menus and we ate, we truly enjoyed.
Yes. I think simply put, great quality, limited offerings. And the last con is that we noticed few daily activities here at the resort. This could be because they're at a relatively low capacity, but I think at the same time, your capacity shouldn't determine the experience that you provide your guests. We're here, for context, in the first week of November 2024, which is more or less the start of what the Caribbean peak season is. And we know for a fact that next week the resort will be going up to 90% capacity. So I guess on that note, take everything that we're saying in this video with a grain of salt. Your experience could be very different when the resort is much busier and the staff is kind of being put to the test a little bit. Getting back to the activities, we would have just liked to see a little bit more happen.
And I think by activities, like organized activities at a certain time, because you could go anytime and like go grab a kayak
or a Hobie cat.
Like they had tons of those types of like beach. We're talking about more of the at 12 o'clock we're doing a water balloon toss or like what.
I think for context, like the only things that we really saw was yesterday at the main pool they had bingo, and then the day before they had pool volleyball. I saw a activity list floating around on Facebook, had like a number of things each day. We didn't really see a lot of that happen, so I think compared to other Sandals, we just would like to see a little bit more engagement with the guests during the day. At night, I think there was plenty going on.
Yeah, there was always something going on at night. They had, silent disco, movies under the stars, they had singers, they had karaoke, all those
singers
things.
On boats. In the pool. Which was really cool.
So there was plenty to do at night, but just would have wished to see a little bit more offerings during the day.
But overall, for us, the pros very much outweigh the cons. Again, some of our cons are, I think we would admittedly say, are on the nitpicky side.
We talked to so many people who said the food here is their favorite of all the Sandals resorts. So it goes to show you how much it is all about perspective and individual
opinions. But simply put, we would highly recommend Sandals St. Vincent. It's an awesome new addition to the Sandals portfolio. Again, we are so happy to see what Sandals and this resort is doing for the overall country of St. Vincent and the Grenadines from an economic and a tourism perspective, and really excited to see what this resort can do going forward. And then going forward for our series of St. Vincent videos, we will have a full resort tour coming to the channel soon. We'll have that dining overview that we mentioned. After this video, don't forget to check out some of the other Sandals videos that we have on our channel if you're interested in going to another Sandals resort. But that is everything we have for you today. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and follow us on social media at A Couple Travelers.
And until next time, keep traveling.